It's your brother G World son underscore D, and I have the books right here, the Aztecs, by Michael Smith. All right, and I'm going to go to page 182. All right, 182. And I'm gonna talk about more like the structure there with this video. Okay, here's right here. You can see a little bit. Put more light on there. Now, pardon my pronunciations of some of the words, a few of the names, but I'm gonna do the best interpretation as I can. Urban planning and layout. All right, urban planning and layout. Most Aztec cities and towns, get the shout out of them. Most Aztec cities and towns were founded by Aztlan immigrants in the 12th and 13th century. The layout of the capital cities followed a plan with large heritage in Mesoamerica. In this tradition, cities were arranged around a sacred central zone that comprised a rectangular public plaza bordered by the important civic and religious buildings. The orientation and placement of the central buildings were carefully planned, sometimes following the dictates of the astronomical principles. Remember I said before how a lot of stuff was aligned with the stars? Outside of the central precinct, however, formal planning was abandoned. Houses, workshops, markets, schools, and neighborhood temples were dispersed throughout the city, separated by gardens and open lots. This ancient pattern urban layout was used by most Mesoamerican civilizations of the classic and post-classic epochs, including the lowland classic Maya and the Zapotecs of the Valley of Oaxaca. The specific configuration of public buildings in the center of the most Aztec cities was copied from the central ceremonial zone of Tula. Aztec city-state capitals such as Emicamica. Okay, Aztec city-state capitals such as Emicamica, Otumba, and Yatepec played a more important role in daily life than did the distant imperial metropolis. Peasants came to town to attend the market, to participate in religious ceremonies, to pay their taxes, and to take care of innumerable other social and administrative obligations. A large, open public plaza formed the heart of the city. With the Latunani palace and temple and other civic structures arranged around its four sides. The temple pyramid always occupied the east side as at Tula, probably because east was the direction of the sunrise. A single or double stairway led up the west or front side of the pyramid to the platform on top. Roofed temple rooms that housed the idols of the city-state's patron gods crowned the pyramid. The structure was the central focus of supernatural power in the city and polity. Many cities had a ball court along the plaza. A lot of times that so-called ball court was as big as a damn football field, where the Mesoamerican ball game was played. Other civic buildings that faced the plaza could include a Teopocali school or very smaller temples or shrines. Teopocali. These stone buildings and plaza itself were laid out with a common orientation, usually close to the cardinal direction. The consistency of this pattern among surviving city centers suggests that urban central zones were carefully planned in accordance with basic principles of political and religious cosmology. The close proximity of the palace and temple would have reinforced the link between the earthly rim, excuse me, let me clear my throat. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. The earthly rim of the Latunani and the sacred rims of the gods. The king ruled for the gods, and the political power had supernatural backing. The layout and orientation of the central precincts is consistent with the Aztecs' preoccupation with the east-west passage of the sun and four-directional cosmology. Outside of the sacred central zone, Aztec cities show little evidence of planning or controlled growth. Houses and house groups were scattered here and there. Buildings did not follow a common orientation. Formal streets or avenues were absent. Nobles and commoners lived in wards of calpola. At least some of these urban calpola were specialized economically. Houses in most Aztec cities were small, simple structures built of adobe bricks. All right, and the Ku Oxkami, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. A rural town, next, not a city-state capital, is one of the few centers whose housing pattern has been mapped completely. The houses and patio groups of its 800 residents were distributed across an area of 14.6 acres with a considerable open area within the town that was probably devoted to farming. Most Aztec cities were larger than Cuexcomate. The average city-state capital had about 5,000 inhabitants in the area of 110 hectares. The population densities of the larger urban settlements, however, were similar to that of Cuexcomate. The city-state capitals averaged 50 persons per hectare, whereas the density of Cuexcomate, and I'm sorry for the pronunciation, was 55 persons per hectare. This suggests that Cuexcomate pattern of scattered houses separated by large open lots may also have characterized other Aztec urban centers. Only a few cities managed to grow beyond the modest size of their contemporaries, usually when the polity experienced great political economic success as a capital of large domain or empire. Apart from obvious case of Tenochtitlan, examples of Azcapotzalco, Azcapotzalco, the Tepanic capital before Texcoco, Tenochtitlan, partner in the Triple Alliance. In the Valley of Mexico, Cuanahuac, and Morelos. Little survives of these cities archaeologically, and only Texcoco has any useful ethno-history description. These cities all had more than 20,000 inhabitants, and their central precincts were probably larger and more impressive than most cities. All right, I'm going to read this little extra part here. The provincial cities and towns, the general urban patterns reviewed above are best illustrated with concrete examples. The archaeological site at Cotelteco in, I can't pronounce this, Itlahuca, were provincial Aztec cities whose public architecture has been excavated and restored. Yatepec is a site where fieldwork has concentrated on houses rather than large buildings. These three sites provide a cross-section of the available information about Aztec cities in central Mexico outside the Valley of Mexico. All right, and I'm going to stop there, and there's some of the architectural structure that's still here, that's still over in Mexico, in this region of Mexico. Now, I'm showing you this, and I could go on because there's some other stuff that I would like to read, but I'm not going to just sit there and read all day today. But to emphasize, like I said, a lot of stuff was aligned with the stars or what they seen in the sky. So a lot of times they align something with the stars are aligned in a certain configuration. They'll try to replicate that here on Earth, or here in mainly living quarters, if you say, but Earth on ground level. So our ancestors always aware with they was always in tune with their environment. All right. So remember I mentioned when one party says east to west, that means sun rises one direction and sets in another direction. So they always were in tune with nature. That's what I'm saying. So our ancestors always in tune with nature. They was ancient astronomers. This constantly was stargazing, studying the sky. And I can read more about that, but I'm going to stop right there because I think that's good enough information for this video. But it's from this book, The Aztecs, by Michael Smith. This is more of an academic book, all right, because it breaks down the various different sites and it talks about the very different structures and how they might have been built. But look at this, man. Look at how they put this stuff together and how they so pasted together or they locked together. And it's still been here for thousands of years. This stuff is still standing. This was our ancestors did, right? This is what our ancestors did. I want brothers and sisters to continue to do their research. Stop saying you're slaves from Africa. That's a lie. You had your black empires here in America. That's what we're descended of, as well as black Europeans, all right? That is our history. Our history is not bringing over here like Kuta Kinte. That's a lie. That's what white folks have told you. You need to open a key, open the door, and study your full history. And realize that your ancestors were in tune with nature. They were tuned with the solar, the lunar, and the stellar. It was all in tune with that. The movements of the stars, the moon, and the sun. It was always in tune with that. It was using that as looking at the time of day, when the sunlight, the daylight is longer, when they can plant the crops. It was always in tune with that. The certain season where they'll plant the crops, and a certain season where the days are getting shorter, and then they feel that nighttime was coming. Then when the daylight started getting longer again, when days are longer, then they start go back to the crop planting season. It was always like they was always stargazing, charting the sky. The sun, solar, lunar, and stellar. It was always charting the skies. There was ancient astronomers. Our people didn't come, like I said, our people weren't brought over here. Most of us weren't brought over here and changed. We was already here. We had a great black empires, Aboriginal empires here in the Americas. I know it's hard for some of my people to fathom that, but that's true. Most of our people were already here. That's not my opinion, that's a fact. But like I said, unfortunately, when you've been conditioned to believe that you're just a slave from Africa, then you're going to believe in one thing, that you're just a slave from Africa. And that's what these white scholars have basically conditioned you to believe in when you go to these universities. Whether these white universities or Negro universities, you're being miseducated in your history. And then we try to tell Negroes this, you quote, hate yourself. No, I don't hate myself. I love myself because I'm studying my true ancestors, my true history, and it's here in the Americas. It's globally, because we're globally, because there's always trade and movement. That's why a lot of stuff is similar. They weren't just basically separated from each other. There was always a connection, building globally. But the fact is, our ancestors are already here. Peace and love, brothers and sisters. Your brother G World _D. G World 7 _D. Peace.